welcome back to Based in May. Dana White just announced UFC 308. We have the main event, Topuria versus Holloway, the fight we've been waiting for. Whitaker versus Chimaev is rebooked as a 5-rounder co-main event. Also, Ciryl Gane versus Volkov 2, Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic, and UFC 308 is looking absolutely stacked. I mean, this card looks absolutely incredible. And before I even talk about these individual matchups, I just want to say, like, there's something about Abu Dhabi cards that always kind of leave us with a weird vibe. I mean, last year we had Volkanovski getting knocked out in the first round. The year before that, we had Charles Oliveira getting submitted by Islam Makhachev in a very depressing way. I'm pretty sure, if you're an Islam fan, I'm pretty sure you were happy that day. But for me, I was depressed. And then the year before that, I think it was Glover Teixeira defeating Jan Blachowicz for the main event, which was kind of a weird one as well. And then the 2020 Abu Dhabi card, I believe, was Justin Gaethje versus Khabib Nurmagomedov, which was kind of sad as well because Khabib retired. And then Justin Gaethje just didn't do as good as we all thought he was going to do. Like, he got submitted in, I believe, the second round. So I feel like these Abu Dhabi cards, like, they're always hyped up. And I can't lie, I'm super hyped up for this one. But they always kind of leave us with, like, a weird vibe. I don't know what it is about Abu Dhabi cards. Like, it's just something about them. Like, they just always leave us with a weird vibe. And at least for me, where I'm from, like, these cards take place like at 11 a.m. So by the time they're over, like around 2, if, you know, the fights don't really go the way you want them to go, you kind of, like, the whole day, there's kind of a like, it's just stinky. Like, it leaves you with a stinky feeling. And, I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of privileged, right? Because most of the time I get the cards at night. So I know for some MMA fans, they're used to watching them, you know, during the midnight or at 3 a.m. or 5 a.m. So it is what it is. Is it a little bit weird that Topuria versus Holloway is taking place in an Abu Dhabi card? I do. I think it's a little bit weird, but obviously we knew that Islam Makhachev was injured. You know, he was not going to be ready to fight on this card. You know, there was rumors of Topuria Holloway potentially taking place at UFC 307, and I'm definitely curious to see what they do with 307. It's probably going to have Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena as the main event, and I mean, it's going to suck, but at this point, the UFC has to do what they have to do, and I don't think Pereira's ready. You know, I don't think they're gonna make like Pereira fight at UFC 307. Obviously, Islam is injured. You know, Dricus and Adesanya are fighting. Aspinall just fought, so I don't really see what other weight class can really main event for UFC 307. Maybe the flyweight division with Pantoja versus somebody that could potentially be the main event of 307. But guys, Abu Dhabi, this card is phenomenal. I mean, Topuria versus Holloway is probably the most anticipated UFC fight in a long time. Like, I feel like MMA fans are truly excited about this fight, and I'm also truly excited about this fight. I mean, this is one of those fights where I go back and forth on. Like, I think initially I was like, Topuria's gonna beat him. I was like, Topuria's going to beat Holloway, the boxing, the power, and that's definitely very possible. But I was like, you know what? Max Holloway might have the tools. You know, he throws pretty good knees, pretty good uppercuts up the middle. His fight IQ has gone up. His speed has gone up. You know, Max Holloway could have a style against Topuria that makes it very frustrating, you know, for Topuria, you know, fighting from range, you know, throwing the jab out here. If Topuria, you know, is with that boxing stance, maybe he's just not able to get Max Holloway's rhythm, and he has a difficult time just landing that right hand or that right hook or really setting up his punches. And honestly, the more I've thought about this fight, it's become a lot more competitive. And like I said, some days I do feel like, you know what, Max Holloway might pull it off, but more days than not, I feel like Topuria is probably going to win this fight. And I love this fight. I truly love this fight. I think it's going to be one of those fights where there's going to be like a civil war, where there's going to be the Topuria fans, there's going to be the Max Holloway fans. Both sides are delusional. It's going to remind me of Charles Oliveira and Islam Makhachev, where they had the Islam fans, the Charles fans, and we could not wait for October for that Abu Dhabi card, because there's always like a massive main event, and this is one of those amazing main events. It's going to be a banger of a fight. Like I said, this is one of the most anticipated UFC fights in recent memory, and Holloway just looked absolutely incredible against Justin Gaethje and just knocked him out, basically killed Justin Gaethje for 5 rounds. Like, that's what was impressive about Max Holloway's performance against Justin Gaethje. It wasn't only that he knocked him out in the last second, but he was putting a beating on Justin Gaethje for the majority of that fight. I believe Justin Gaethje only won like the 4th round, but Max Holloway won the majority of that fight, was outpointing Justin Gaethje, landing the better shots, landing the more significant shots, and was making Justin Gaethje look like a brawler. Like he made Justin Gaethje not look like he's not technical at all, which is absolutely insane. Now, the big thing here is that Max Holloway has to cut all that weight that he just gained to fight Justin Gaethje. He has to cut that to move down to 145 pounds. So he's going to lose a little bit of that muscle. He's going to lose a bit of that power. Now, I still believe that potentially his speed could be a problem for Ilia Topuria, and he kind of has that Muay Thai striking style, which potentially could be effective against Topuria, who is the shorter opponent. Now, the problem is that Topuria, he's very good at range. He's very good at setting up his boxing combinations. He's not a guy that throws a 1-2. He throws a 1-2-3-4. And those type of fighters make it very difficult to counter. And Topuria is very good at pressuring you up against the fence and then unloading. Now, like I said, this is a different style matchup than the one against Volkanovski. Topuria isn't coming off getting knocked out. So, that's something very beneficial going into this fight. But if there's ever like a worse fighter that you can fight moving down a weight class, is Ilia Topuria, because this guy has godly power at 145 pounds. Like, if you're bulking down to another weight class, the last guy that you want to face is Topuria. Like, that's not the guy that you want to face coming back down from a weight class. So that's the only thing that really concerns me for Holloway in this fight, is that now he has to cut down weight. He's going to lose a bit of his power. Topuria has had a long time off. In his last fight, he basically didn't take any damage against Volkanovski. And I do feel like this is just a different style matchup than the Justin Gaethje one. But make no mistake, I could definitely see Holloway just frustrating Topuria, landing the right hand, landing the uppercut, landing knees, throwing the head kicks, fighting from range, and just making it a very frustrating fight for Topuria. And even though Topuria might land the more significant shots, I could just see Holloway winning with the volume. Like, that's something that I could potentially see if Topuria is not really able to close that range. But, I mean, Topuria is also very good. This is why this main event is amazing, because I think you can make solid arguments for either fighter. What an incredible main event. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Like, I don't care if all the other fights fall off or something happens and we still get to Topuria versus Holloway. I'm still gonna be super hyped for this fight. I'm gonna be super excited for this card. But Dana White decided to cook. He rebooked Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev. And I know a lot of people are angry. Because they're like, okay, Khamzat Chimaev, he just pulled out of his fight against Robert Whittaker. Why is the UFC giving him another opportunity to fight a top middleweight when he hasn't earned it? Like, he hasn't fought any other middleweight. His last fight was against Kamaru Usman a year ago, which it was basically a draw. And then he hadn't fought a year before that, and his last fight was against Kevin Holland. So it's just weird. Now, do I agree with those people that Chimaev doesn't deserve this? I do agree with those people. I don't think Chimaev deserves this. Now, I'm not mad about the matchup. The reason why I'm not mad about the matchup is because we all know that Sean Strickland is not going to be facing Robert Whittaker. And at this point, I'd rather see Robert Whittaker be active and just add another big name to his resume. Can you imagine if Whittaker beats Chimaev, Ikram Aliskerov, all of the guys on his resume? Like, Whittaker might have one of the best resumes in the middleweight division, and it's still a huge fight for Whittaker. Now, I know there's a lot more to lose for Robert Whittaker because he's right there in title contention, and he's basically giving the opportunity to Chimaev to climb up and pass him, and for Chimaev to get that title shot, right? But I mean, Whittaker has already fought for the title a couple times. He's come off short, so I see why Whittaker took this fight. Is I guess what I'm trying to say here. Like, I feel like there's not another big fight that Whittaker can really take in the meantime. And I feel like if you're going to face Khamzat Chimaev, the best time to face him is right now, where he's basically coming off a draw. He's coming off health issues. He hasn't fought in quite a while. He doesn't have quite the same aura that he used to have. So I kind of see the appeal of why Robert Whittaker took this fight against Khamzat Chimaev. And I think that a lot of people are going to be giving Robert Whittaker more of a chance to win this fight than previously. Like, especially for me, like, I thought Khamzat Chimaev was going to run through Robert Whittaker. Now, I don't think so. I think this fight is going to be very competitive because Robert Whittaker, he had a more aggressive style against Ikram Aliskerov. And even though Ikram Aliskerov is not to the level of someone like Khamzat Chimaev, I think it shows that, Robert Whittaker could potentially be dangerous, because that's one of my biggest, I guess, criticisms of Robert Whittaker in the past, where I felt like, yeah, he's very technical, he's very good at outclassing you, but he's not that dangerous. And that's the problem that I see here, where it's like, now that Robert Whittaker showed that he could be a little bit more dangerous, that if you don't have if you're not at the level of his striking, he could make you look foolish and put you out. That makes him very dangerous. And I think that if Khamzat Chimaev, he hasn't recovered from health issues, he has cardio issues, maybe he's going to have ring rust. I think this could be a fight that Robert Whittaker wins and puts him in title contention. So even though I see a lot of people complaining about this fight, and I understand why, I think that I understand Robert Whittaker's reason for taking this fight, and I think it makes a lot of sense. I think this is the best time to face someone like Chimaev, where he's lost a bit of his aura. He's coming off health issues. He hasn't fought in a year. So I love this fight. I love that it's a 5-round co-main event. Obviously, I am a little bit worried that Khamzat Chimaev is going to pull out yet again. So if I were the UFC, I would have another big middleweight just ready, just in case Chimaev pulls out, because there's like a 70% chance that Chimaev pulls out of this fight. And like I said, is it kind of like crazy that he's getting this opportunity? Absolutely. But I just want to see great fights, and this fight still excites me, even though, it has lost a bit of its shine because we were supposed to see it back in June. I think this is a great co-main event for Topuria versus Holloway. Beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. And then the UFC also announced Gane versus Volkov 2. That was one of the fights that we kind of already knew was going to be on this card. And this fight is interesting, right? Because Volkov looked pretty good against Sergey Pavlovich. He made him look foolish. But I still got to go with Ciryl Gane, man. I think he's the faster guy. He's the more elusive striker. And I just don't think there's a lot of guys in the heavyweight division that can strike like, Gane. Even though he might not be the most dangerous striker. I think his speed, his footwork, his kickboxing, I think he's just a little bit faster than Alexander Volkov. I do think Volkov is going to fight him a little bit better than he did in that first fight. Maybe mix it up with the takedowns. Maybe try to get this fight down to the mat, because Volkov has gotten a little bit bigger. He does have a little bit more aura now. So I'm definitely going to be rooting for Alexander Volkov, because I'm tired of Ciryl Gane just not really taking the sport that seriously, filming movies. He could have fought Aspinall at UFC 304, which would have been, I think, a more interesting fight than the fight against Curtis Blades. Just because Gane is a pretty good striker. I think that fight would have been bigger as well. But I think I got to go with Gane to win that fight by a decision. The UFC also announced Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. Now for this fight, I'm going to go with Magomed Ankalaev. Even though I could see Alexander Rakic being dangerous with the low kicks. He has very good low kicks. And even though he lost against Yuri Prochazka, it's not like he put a pretty bad performance. Like, he was piecing up Yuri Prochazka. But I do think that Magomed Ankalaev has too much power. I think he could hurt Alexander Rakic, drop him, maybe knock him out, maybe take him down. So I got to go with Magomed Ankalaev. Now, this fight kind of bumps me out a little bit, because I was kind of hoping we would get Magomed Ankalaev versus Jamal Hill. I think that would have been a bigger fight. I think somebody like Alexander Rakic could have fought somebody like Khalil Roundtree, and then you could have made Jan Blachowicz versus Yuri Prochazka, and then Jamal Hill versus Magomed Ankalaev. Because, Magomed Ankalaev and Jamal Hill have been going at each other for a while. And I just feel like that fight would have been a little bit more exciting, in my opinion. I really wanted to see Ankalaev versus Hill. But, Rakic is also a very good fighter. But the thing is, like, if Rakic wins this fight, it's like, are you going to give him a title shot? Like, it's very weird. Right now, it's very weird in the light heavyweight division, because a lot of these top, light heavyweights are coming off losses, except Magomed Ankalaev. So I'm surprised that Magomed Ankalaev isn't getting the title shot, which kind of bums me out, which probably means that Alex Pereira is not fighting for a while. Like, who could he be fighting? Like, I hope it's not Jan Blachowicz. Like, I don't want to see that fight again for the title. Like, that doesn't really make sense, right? Jan hasn't fought in a while. He's coming off a loss to Alex Pereira. Like, why would they give him a title shot? Like, when everybody wants to see Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. So this would only mean that they're potentially thinking of making Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall, maybe for Madison Square Garden. That'd be great, right? UFC 309, main event, John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Co-main event, Alex Pereira versus Tom Aspinall. Banger. That would be a banger 2 like combination right there. But I mean, it's still a good fight, guys. And UFC 308, like I said, is absolutely stacked. I want to know what you guys think. I'm super excited for Topuria versus Holloway. I hope you guys are having a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.